Hello, my name's Chris Gorse. I'm here with Professor John Sturges, and we're just going to touch on what I think is a very pertinent discussion topic, which has been around for some time, but I think, John, you believe that there is some increasing pressure to open up the discussion on whether the triple bottom line is still the main position with regard to sustainability. So it's something I want to take forward with students and practitioners. But what I know you're only just getting into this argument again, but what's your current thinking on the societal needs, economic and environment, and that triple bottom line from the Brundtland report? Is it still current thinking?
Well, yes. In our industrial survey, one of the first questions we asked the firms that we approached, or the firms where we were getting information, we got it mainly from published reports, sustainability reports and annual reports, how did they define sustainability? And most of them said, yes, they were tuned into the Brundtland idea of not depleting the resources so that our descendants can't enjoy a reasonable standard of living, and also triple bottom line, the social, economic and environmental impacts of what's going on. Now, it's easy to see the environmental component, the effects of what we do, the environmental effects in various ways, the CO2 content and the waste production and things of this sort. It's very easy to measure that. Social sustainability is not so easy, and the economic sustainability. In our survey, we found, I mentioned the mining companies, and they don't just take care about remediation of the site. They take a long-term view that they say we're going to be in this location mining minerals or whatever it is that we're after for some years, and we therefore need to build a road so we can access this site. But they don't just build a road and say this is our road. They take the view, well, this road could serve the needs of the local community. We're interested in having a healthy, well-educated workforce. We want to get it locally. We don't want to be shipping people in because that's not a good idea. It's not good from a sustainability point of view. If you can get people working locally, that's the best solution. So they say we need to build a road, but they build a road with the future objective. If this road belongs to this community, then it's not just ours. We will hand over a properly laid road, which will have a good life into the future. We will also put money into local health clinics, local schools, so that again we're getting a stake in a local healthy, educated workforce. And those are all very positive steps, and I suppose they come under the heading of social and to some extent economic sustainability, because the firm is picking up the bill for doing that instead of the government, and if it's a site in a poor country, that's a very positive contribution. But there's still a question mark over how we measure all the aspects of sustainability and how they fit under these headings of economic, social and environmental. It's not difficult to look at the environmental aspect. That's pretty obvious what those are. The others are not so easy. Now, some of the very latest thinking centres on these so-called circles of sustainability, and these have been devised as a way of assessing the impact and sustainability of large cities. Now that's important because in 2016, I think roughly half the world's population live in cities, and the further into the future we move, the bigger will be the proportion of people on planet Earth who live in cities. As I've already said, by 2050 we expect the population to be about 9.5 billion. A lot of those people, a lot of those extra people will be accommodated in cities, and of course cities are huge and they have a big impact. They draw in resources from outside of materials and energy, they draw in people, you have to provide accommodation, living accommodation, you have to provide water, services, transport and all the rest of it. So they have a massive impact. Now, recent work has centred on what they call circles of sustainability, where they assess the sustainability or otherwise of a city under various headings, including social and environmental, but also things like cultural and besides economic aspects. So I think they've got about 4 sectors on this diagram with circles, and the innermost circles are where the thing is most severe, and as you moved out, these outer circles are the ones where things are looking reasonably well sorted. The outer circles are usually coloured in green and the inner ones are coloured in red to show that these are the sort of critical areas. Now, this seems to me to provide quite a useful way of looking at what happens in a city. It's a macro approach because you're taking an overall view. And the interesting thing that I've noticed from some of this work is that cities in the developed world, one of them I recall is Melbourne, others in the developing world, in places like, the other one was Tehran in Iran, which of course is a very westernised city. Others, Delhi in India and various Sao Paulo and places like that in South America, less developed. And the interesting thing that immediately showed up was the sector that designates how waste is dealt with. And on the cities in the advanced world, that sector designating waste was coloured in red, indicating that this is critical. It's a really major problem. Now, if you look at the cities in the developing world, from India and South America, the sector that covers waste is not coloured in red, it's quite green. In other words, it's not seen as a big problem. Now, I'm not sure what the reason for that is, but I was born during the war, and I recall a time when things were nowhere near as plentiful as they are today for my grandchildren, and there was a lot less of throwing things away and more of making do and mend. And when the men came around to empty the dustbins, there was far less stuff in those galvanised iron dustbins by far than there is in your plastic wheelie bin today. So part of the major waste problem we have, it seems to me, is being generated by the first world, the developed world, the world that has advanced economic development and very high material standards of living. In the poorer sectors, this is nowhere near as much of a problem. Now, it seems to me this could be quite a useful way of looking at sustainability problems. So, in other words, what I'm saying is we haven't necessarily got the ideal way of assessing these problems in 2016. There's room for some further development.
I think that's a useful contribution, and actually looking at how we develop our understanding of the critical pressure points in different communities, environments and economies might be useful. So something that I'd like to open up as a discussion for our students and for the practitioners or anybody listening to this presentation is, how do we identify the pressure points within a sustainable world, and is a triple bottom line still the best model to look at with a view to sustainability?